the last webinar here in a series of 4 webinars this month, looking at the next generation science standards and some different tools that you can use with the next generation science standards in terms of, Google Apps for education and then those sorts of things. I will share my screen with you in just a moment. And let's get this going here. All right. Welcome to Makerspaces STEM and 3D Printing. I'm Brad Curry. You can learn more about me at www.bradcurry.net. A little bit about me. Coach, teacher, administrator for the past 15 years. I am currently the supervisor of instruction and dean of students for the Chester School District in Chester, New Jersey. This is my 4th year in this position. Prior to that, I was a social studies teacher and computer application teacher, and also a vice principal and athletic director and coach of many sports. I am the founding partner of Evolving Educators, LLC. We are a company committed to providing innovative PD related to educational technology. In particular, we focus on Google Apps for education and those sorts of professional growth opportunities. I am the co-founder and co-moderator of SatChat, a weekly Twitter discussion for current and emerging school leaders. If you're not on Twitter, I strongly urge you to hop on and try it out. It will change your professional life for the better. SatChat takes place every Saturday morning at 7:30 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. Log on to Twitter, type in the hashtag SatChat, and join in on the conversation. I'm the author of 3 books, All Hands on Deck, Tools for Connecting Educators, Parents, and Communities, Personalized PD, Flipping Your Professional Development, and 140 Twitter Tips for Educators. I'm a Google certified trainer, presenter, and consultant. Attendees will gain a working knowledge of how to infuse Makerspaces, STEM classes, and 3D printing into the school setting. So that's basically what this webinar is going to be about. Hopefully you'll come away with 3 or 4 things that you can put into place right away without much thought, and then looking ahead probably to next year, starting out as prepare over the summer next year, 1 or 2 maybe major things that you can implement to help out your students at either the elementary, middle, or high school level. So let's get into this. I want a makerspace. Now what? That's one of the things that you're seeing schools do around the country and around the world is start to toy around with the idea of a makerspace. And this kind of links to a blog post that I wrote back in August, and you'll have access to this blog. And I'll refer to this here in a little bit. I will share with you the presentation at the end. But anyway, if we go back to this here, again, this is something that this time last year, our school librarian, Janet Aronson, came to me after she attended a librarians summit here in New Jersey. Shannon Miller was the keynote, and she says, "Hey, Brad, I want to turn my library into part of it anyway into a makerspace for students to come into and with no stress, no grades or anything, and just be able to tinker, to play, to build, to create, that sort of thing." So I said, all right. So we were able to play around with the budget, get some money to start a makerspace. A lot of it was just, um, free for the most part, but we did have to spend some money to get some items in there so that kids were able to do some things. And we'll go over that in a little bit. But you definitely, you want to identify a purpose. What's the purpose of your makerspace? I think, a big word to think about when you're identifying the purpose of your makerspace is autonomy. Providing students with the autonomy, the freedom to be in a makerspace and be able to do what they want, as long as they're safe and as long as it's for educational reasons. That's definitely something that you really want to consider. The autonomy, differentiation, making sure that there are different stations, throughout your makerspace, no matter how large or small. There's options for kids, and those sorts of things. Um, and you definitely, you want to make it available to all students, at least at the beginning, in terms of promoting it and putting it out there, um, making it available. At least, if you say, for example, this year we looked at sixth grade, okay, and we said, we're going to start with sixth graders, and every week we're going to invite a certain amount of sixth graders to our makerspace, and that sort of thing. I'll talk about that in a little bit when we get into the pilot program, what we did with that. You need to identify staff members who are going to take ownership of this makerspace. And I'm sure every school out there has a handful of people that are pretty passionate about this sort of thing that would want to do it. And you can think about it in different ways. You have to be creative. You may not be able to pay this person, so maybe you can take duty off of their plate. Maybe they're on hall duty or lunch duty. You can take that away from them. I'm sure they'd much rather be involved in something fun like the makerspace rather than sitting in the hallway or sitting in the cafeteria. Maybe some grant opportunities out there. Those sorts of things. Maybe it's an additional class that they can teach, depending on what your schedule is like for the upcoming school year. So these are things that you want to consider when trying to make your makerspace become a reality. What's the location? A library worked for us, but it may not work for your school for a variety of reasons. And so you need to kind of think about that. Maybe you do have an extra space. I was in a school recently on a site visit, and this place had many classrooms available to make their makerspace become a reality. You need to identify resources in a budget. What do you need to make this makerspace an experience, something that the kids will enjoy and will remember? And we'll go into that in just a moment, what those resources look like. And maybe you have some volunteers. Maybe you have some community members, parents, that would be willing to volunteer their time, maybe a couple times a week or a couple times a month, to come in and work with the students, in addition to a staff member, to provide that extra set of hands and experience. So that definitely can happen. And donations. We try to, a couple times a year, send a blast out through our instant alert email, social media feeds, webpage, if people have any donations, anything, cardboard. And we have people donate wine corks, wine bottle corks, and the kids can build all sorts of things out of those. So people are very generous when it comes to donating those sorts of little things. And so I want to talk to you here for a few minutes about our pilot program. I think, initially people want to start big and go all out. And just like anything else, if you do that, if you have that mentality, there's nothing wrong with that. But what happens is that it becomes overwhelming. and it becomes too much, especially if there's only one or two people involved in making this sort of thing happen. So I would suggest that you start small and that you identify a class or a grade level that would benefit from this makerspace, or that you think would um, put this makerspace experience, this pilot experience, in a position that would be successful. You know, and so that is definitely something to consider. All right, and in our middle school, at Black River Middle School, we decided to start with sixth grade and um, go from there. So with the hope of, all right, in 16 and 17, maybe we expand it out to seventh grade, because then the sixth graders now who are going through this will have that as well. And then the incoming sixth grader class will have the makerspace experience. And then in it would be 17, 18, um, expand it out to the eighth graders. And then those sixth graders have had it in 15, 16, we'll have it in seventh grade, 16, 17, eighth grade, 17, 18. That sort of mentality, I think, can work as long as, again, you have the staff, you have the location, you have the budget, you have the supplies, those sorts of things. In the world of education, you need to plan well in advance for these sorts of things to happen and for it to be approved by your Board of Education, have the budget approved, and those sorts of things. So I want to, so the pilot program this year has been very successful with our sixth graders. We are a sixth or eighth grade building, and you can apply this sort of mindset to your high school, starting ninth grade, and then over the years work your way up, or in elementary school, start in second or third grade and work your way up to fifth grade, that sort of thing, depending on what how your school is laid out. And what we did is every week, again, this is mostly, it's not all Mrs. Aronson, our school librarian, but she had a pretty good idea. Every week we would invite 10 kids, 10 different kids, to the makerspace initially. And so then once we worked our way through all the students in sixth grade, which brings us up to the last month or so, then the kids that were interested, really interested, want to come back, because again we're doing this during our lunch period, so the kids would go eat lunch quick or whatever, and then come down and work, play, tinker, build, and those sorts of things for 20 minutes or so during the lunch period. And then we're competing with recess, so kids know when it gets nice out now, they have to go outside. But we now still have this decent amount of kids coming in to the makerspace, and they can do all sorts of things. I'll go into this in a moment, but it's just not about technology. Kids are building things out of cardboard, they're origami, they're making bracelets out of all sorts of materials. PVC pipe, they're building these different marshmallow shooters and things. They do have the ability to 3D print, and I'll get into this right now. I'll take you to this blog post that I wrote for Core and Connect back in August, titled "I Want a Makerspace, Now What?" And I really go into this at great length. And again, this is a part of my presentation that I can share with you at the end of this presentation, but it is a blog I wrote. If you just Google, Brad Curry, want a makerspace, now what, you'll come up to this. But I give you an introduction to how we came to this sort of makerspace. In fact, I reference an ed camp I attended over the summer, Ed Camp Leadership in North Jersey, and how we had a makerspace session. And actually, in the blog post, I clicked to a link of resources that people shared in that session. So I think you'll find that very useful. It's kind of like a makerspace think tank. So if you click it, it'll take you to a Google Doc with all sorts of information here, and it'll really be beneficial for you as you make your way through it. But anyway, getting back to the blog post, I get into the sorts of things that we have in our makerspace, and including, I'll get into the flight simulator later, but the Sphero app enabled ball, so the Sphero ball, you're able to, coding, programming through the Sphero app. That we have a Makey kits, we have Legos, this basic supplies from the dollar store. Um, so I think that's something you need to think about if you are budgeting, for the dollar stores. A great place for makerspace materials. So you really want to think about that. There's an Erector super construction set. There's Cubelets, um, 3D printing pens, Arduino kits. I mean, we have all sorts of things um, in our makerspace. The kids really enjoy the Makey kits. So these are all linked. So you can see the circuits here, the Makey kits. It's pretty neat. The kids were able to program a banana to do all sorts of things. I was in there to actually play the drums on a computer. So they hooked up the Makey kits to the bananas that were hooked into the computer, and the kids were able to play drums with the bananas. So those sorts of things are pretty cool. Low stress. Kids are building. Kids are tinkering, and they really enjoy it. So that was pretty cool. Um, I'll get into the 3D printers and stuff in a moment. Um, but anyway, I get into this here. I get into this. I also share here a book by Laura Fleming titled Worlds of Making. If you don't have this book, I strongly urge you to purchase it. Laura Fleming is an educator here in New Jersey. I'm at New Milford High School, and she takes you through the process of establishing a makerspace in your very own school. So, Worlds of Making Core and Press, check it out by Laura Fleming. So, looking, initially at a makerspace, I hope I kind of walk you through some things to make it happen. Obviously, it could be as low budget as you want it to be, or it could be very high budget. So it's all depending on your culture of your school, the budget that you have. But I really think it works at all grade levels. I just referenced Laura Fleming's book. That's a high school where kids are having fun in their makerspace. We're a middle school, and I've definitely seen it in elementary schools. It works. Kids enjoy it, and we need more of that. To be honest with you. So that's my 2 cents on a makerspace. So check it out. Getting into STEM class here. Um, we offer a STEM class. Actually, we're a K-8 district, so for the last 3 or 4 years, we have offered STEM classes to our 6th, 7th, and 8th grade students. And this past year, we started offering STEM classes to our elementary students in our 3-5 building, and STEM experiences in our K2 building. And so I just want to talk to you about our middle school here for a moment and some of the things that our students experience. It's a cycled class. So as you're preparing for next year and you think you have the ability to integrate this sort of class, maybe in your related arts cycle, your applied arts cycle, this is what we did. We replaced it with another class that we did away with, and it was made available as a marking period course, so the kids will take it for 45 days, and then they'll move on to another class. So, but they really enjoy this class. It gives them an opportunity, as you can see here, to build like these robots here. And this is from a unit on robotics, and not only robotics, but looking at social studies and the expansion of the United States. So it's a multidisciplinary project. So the students not only study and learn about the expansion of the United States. But they'll build a robot, they'll test it out, and after many failures, which is a great thing about makerspaces and STEM, and the amount of times that kids fail at things, which is a good thing in this instance because they're learning from their failures and then making their projects better. Here you can see that there's a girl here that has a remote control in her hand. She's programming the robot to move supplies across the map that they created to show the expansion. So that was pretty cool. That's just one of the projects, robotics, that kids experience. I think that's in 8th grade. Not I think, I know it's in 8th grade. One of the other things they do in 8th grade are these CO2 cars. We actually have a CO2 track. Obviously, you don't need to track, but it makes it easier. You could just do it in the hallway or something. But the kids will build their own CO2 cars out of balsa wood and put their own wheels on it, and put it through different situations to test it out. And then once they're ready, they'll race each other on the track. So they're learning about aerodynamics and things along those lines. Our kids in 6th and 7th grade also build earthquake towers. So they learn about engineering and those sorts of things. They build catapults, and then they test out the catapults by flicking things through the air and measuring distance. So you're incorporating math and those sorts of things, and tension and what have you. And kids also build solar power objects. Now, it used to start out as they build solar powered cars, but then our teacher Andy Gray said, "Hey, you know what? Let's differentiate this a little bit more. Let's give kids this." So kids are building all sorts of things that are solar powered. They're building mini houses that have solar powered roofs, and they're building solar powered boats and little mini helicopters and cars and those sorts of things. So that not only do they learn about the environment, and they learn about wind, they learn about solar and those different types of energies, but they're building as well. So it's a great class, and the kids do for that 45-day marking period, 2 or 3 projects. Some of them listed here: 6th grade, 7th grade, 8th grade. They cycle through, and it's a wonderful class. So for 45 days, they'll take the STEM class. Then they'll go to another, like a performing arts or computer application class or our art class. So there's 4 options that they have throughout the year that they go through. So that's a STEM class, what it can look like. If you're looking for a curriculum, a sample curriculum, an exemplar, please email me. I'll share my contact information with you at the end of class, and we'll get that to you to help you out. 3D printing is something that is very useful and is really started to make its way into the educational spaces in our schools and what have you over the last couple of years. One reason being is that they're cheaper now. 3D printers are cheaper. Several years ago, not too long ago, they were really expensive. Now schools are starting to be able to afford them, seeing the many benefits that they have, not only in a STEM class, but in our regular classes, whether it's science, social studies, math, what have you. And so that's the main purpose of 3D printing, is to enhance students' learning experiences. And you can see here some of these pictures, students designing and printing objects that kind of show what they know about the topic at hand. So in this instance here, a kid in Mrs. Mussolino's biology class learning about DNA, what have you, and said, "Hey, I want to research about DNA extraction tools. Not only do I want to research about it, I'm going to design a DNA extraction tool, and then print it out on the 3D printer." And so we have that option. We have two 3D printers in our building, one in the computer lab, one in the library, that we received from some grants, local grants, and then they printed them out. In the bottom picture here, another student, again, it was an option that they had of several to show what they know. They decided to print out this object to show what they know about biology. So these different sorts of things can be done fairly easily, but again, it comes from a lot of places. You got to have the support of your Board of Education, of your administration, of your community, of your parents, that we want this sort of thing to take place, okay? And that it's perfectly fine. It's a viable option for students of all ages to show what they know about a certain topic, all right? Because we all know that kids learn differently. And maybe for me personally as a student, I don't know if I'd be that fired up about a 3D printer and printing something out. Maybe I would be. I don't know. I think everybody's different, but I think it needs to be an option. And they're going down in price, and they really could help you out. And so one of the tools we use in our Makerspace and in our computer class is Tinkercad. And as it says here, Tinkercad is a simple online 3D design and 3D printing app for everyone. All right, and then when the rule, and I suggest you go with this rule as well. I didn't come up with it. Obviously, our great teachers did, but you can only print if you design. Okay, and I think that's a great rule to live by. You have to design it in order to print. So that kind of gets kids to, all right, I can do that. I can think. And so Tinkercad, I'll take you through how to use. It's very easy. It's free, and kids are able to do that. Now, well, kids are also, what another option here instead of Tinkercad is, I think there's an option here, but what you can do is you can take a picture. So say you want to draw something, you can actually take a picture of whatever it is that you drew, and then upload that, and then you're able to print it out. I'm going to share with you a document that is airdropped to my device. Okay, and what I'll do is I'll put this into the presentation, but it basically takes you through the process of 3D printing from any image. And my friend Alyssa Malaspina shared this one day on either Twitter or Facebook, but it takes you through the process of how you can 3D print any image that you have that maybe you've drawn out on a piece of paper, or that maybe you took a picture of, and then you can turn it into a 3D image. So I will share that with you momentarily. Bring it back here to the presentation. So definitely Tinkercad is a tool that you could look at. In terms of 3D printers, again, I can only speak to the 3D printers that we have in our building. Somewhat costly, but comparatively speaking, not too bad. The Flash Forge Creator, take it to the, again, this is all hyperlinked to my presentation. This is what it looks like. It's the outside is made of wood, and the 3D printers in general are kind of take some adjusting. It takes some time to get used to, and this came not pre-assembled, and so our wonderful teachers asked some of our students to help us assemble this, and they figured it out. And over time, they were able to print out on it. You can see the different things that you can print on the 3D. I mean, it's just amazing what you can print nowadays. I guess I said in 2025, people will be able to print out their own clothes. But there's just some simple tips and things that you need to think about. Like sometimes this plate, the, it works out well if you kind of like spray it with like hairspray, just so that the object that's being printed can kind of stay where it needs to stay, and you're able to manipulate the object if you needed to. Those sorts of things. Another model that we have is the Up Mini. This came pre-assembled, all right, and costs a little less. It was around $500–600, and it works very well. Again, works with Tinkercad, so you just hook this up to you hook the 3D printer up to your computer, and then you have the software, like Tinkercad or something on your computer. Make sure they're synced up and everything, and then you're ready to print. So this came pre-assembled for the most part and was somewhat easy to set up, and kind of looks like a coffee machine, but it's nice and small. And one thing that you want to take into consideration is time. All right, again, 3D printers are somewhat fairly new, especially to the educational world. And in the educational world, we all know we're short on time. So just be aware that when you do actually print something out, it takes some time, up to an hour or even more to print out an object. So you want to take that into consideration when you're developing units of study, lesson plans, and just to make sure the kids have something else productive to do instead of just staring at their object being printed out. All right, so this is another 3D printer that we have in our Makerspace. We have one in our computer lab, one in our Makerspace that the kids have access to. Moving on here, we have about 15 minutes left. The 3D drawing pen, the 3D stereo drawing pen. Actually, just one of our great biology teachers, Mrs. Musarino, just wrote a grant and received a grant for some 3D drawing pens. And this is going to help her in her biology class to, again, give students another way to show what they know about the topic at hand. Not only in their class did they do the thing with the 3D printer here, now they're going to have access to these drawing pens. And I'll take you to the link just so you can check it out here for a moment. You can see what they look like here, the 3D drawing pens. All right, they come in these boxes here with the materials, and I think people just being able to hold a pen in your hand and be able to manipulate the material inside of the pen, I think will help the students be able to draw what they need to draw. Be anxious to see how this plays out. We just received these today, and so that's just another option that kids have. 3D pen, you can put that in your Makerspace and those sorts of things. So in terms of 3D printing, those are just some of my thoughts and resources related to 3D printing. It's just something that I think can really be beneficial to students and to education in general. And this is what's going to be in our world for the next hundreds and hundreds of years. I mean, this is what they're doing up in outer space in the space shuttles. To 3D print out parts and those sorts of things. So this is what we're going to be able to do and have access to down the road. So I think we need to have kids start to be able to experiment with 3D printing. Coding and flight simulators. All right, again, part of the whole STEM movement. We had a grant given to us. So we some money given to us, so we were able to buy a flight simulator. What you can see here, it's actually a part of the the learning module in Mrs. Garrison's class, Mrs. Pohan's class, computer applications classes. Students can pick this module to learn about flight and to experience what it's like to fly a plane. So you talk about science, technology, engineering, mathematics. Um, the flight simulator that we have is the EduStation, and this is the website, stempilot.com. I wish we had this, but we don't. We have the EduStation. We have one of these, but these are definitely places that have a whole classroom full of them. So that's something to consider. If you'd had a lot of money to turn a whole learning space into a flight simulator classroom. But not only do they have information on the different flight simulators, that the one that you have here, but it also goes into, has blogs, and talks about how different schools around the country integrate flight simulators into the school setting. So this is a great resource, stempilot.com. Check it out. The kids love it, and they're learning so much about flight and terminology and things. It's just amazing. If you go into here, the learning module, you'll see some information related to how that plays out. In terms of coding, coding is a big part of STEM, so you want to think about that. And there's some coding sites that we're familiar with here in our school, and that I've seen firsthand. Code Academy is something that really sticks out to me, and code.org and Scratch. In fact, not only can you use these tools to learn how to code, but you can actually use these tools to show what you know about a topic. And if you can see here, I'll go into present mode. I'm not sure if you'll be able to see, but if we zoom in, you'll be able to see that, zoom out here just a bit, that a student, it's not working, that a student utilized Scratch to create a program, a game, a simulation, if you want to call it that, related to science, related to biology. And it's pretty cool. All these different, if you look in here, I share the presentation with you, you'll see that they inserted components that related to science and what they were learning and made it a part of their game. And so it's very easy for kids to code something like that, and it should be an option for them to do that sort of thing. Khan Academy, I also want to show you, we think of Khan Academy for tutorials. They have phenomenal resources related to coding and how to code, and just take it, just like the regular math tutorials and other subject tutorials, takes you through the coding process and what it's like, all the way from the introduction to advanced sorts of tutorials. So this is something that you can incorporate into your computer application classes, or even regular subject areas, and give your students, particularly the students who are into coding, this option. Say, hey, you know what? You're into coding. See if in some way, shape, or form you can use coding to show what you know about whatever it is we're learning about in class. It seems far-fetched, but that's an option that we have now, especially many of our schools that have access to BYOD one-to-one and those sorts of things. You can do that much more easily now. Moving right along. This is one of my favorite parts of the presentation, where I get into some resources here that I think you'll find beneficial I know a couple weeks ago I talked about personal learning networks and the next generation science standards and things. Um, I just want to get into Twitter and some hashtags um, that I think you'll find useful as you learn about STEM. So the first hashtag is STEM. All right, so if you're on Twitter and you go to the STEM hashtag, you'll come across tweets that include various resources, okay, and links and videos and photos related to STEM. So, I log into Twitter, I go to the search box. Search box is your friend, okay, and you type in hashtag STEM. I scroll down my Twitter feed here, and you come across all sorts of things. That look at this. This is today's National Pretzel Day, I guess, and it talks about the makeup of pretzels. Okay, here is an example of a photo that was shared. Kids are building bridges in their makerspace. Again, low stress, no grades. Kids are just tinkering, building, and playing, and learning from their mistakes of building bridges and things. So what Twitter does is it gives you ideas. If you're a visual learner, it gives you ideas you can bring back to your classroom or to your school to promote the success of students. Today's, this is a time of year where different science classes are doing egg drops. Gives you some ideas here of what egg drops could look like, set up. Just keep scrolling down here. You'll find blog posts. Here's one from Ed Week, Understand STEM's Potential to Include Humanities and the Arts. And so you can click on this article, and it'll bring you to it. You don't have to sign up for Ed Week. It's a free resource, but it just gives you something to think about, something to read. This is from Joe Berkowitz and Ann Myers, a great blog, Leadership 360, that often focuses on STEM. So I encourage you to register for free here and follow their blog on Ed Week. So these are the sorts of things. Now, another hashtag that I want to show you, about 10 minutes here, is hashtag Makerspace. And like I said before, makerspaces aren't all about technology. Okay, here people are crocheting. We have kids in our makerspaces that make bracelets out of duct tape. Duct tape is a great product to have in your makerspace. Kids love duct tape. You can do so many things with duct tape. So I encourage you to buy a lot of duct tape and have it available to kids. There's that same picture that we showed before with the STEM hashtag through the Makerspace hashtag. Here's a Google Cardboard. All right, we actually have Google Cardboard in our Makerspace as well. It's just something that kids can, if they want to bring their cell phone or smartphone and download the Google Cardboard app, and they want to just take a virtual tour of another place around the world. They'll slide it into the Google Cardboard and go through that virtual reality. You can see kids here with their the pens I was talking about before, building, designing. Look at these things you can build with the pens. So that's pretty cool. All right. So that's something to think about there. So whoever DHS Library is, they're really doing some great things. You can have your autograph, your name. Here's a great article or a great idea from Makerspaces.com. Add a green screen to your makerspace. Fun way to explore movie making. All right, so making can be anything you want it to be. It could be coding. It could be movie making. It could be designing something with a 3D pen. It could be making bracelets out of duct tape. It could be whatever you want it to be. That's a great thing about the sky's the limit. Here's somebody tweeting out a picture of their 3D printer and what it's printing out, and they have an octopus here. That's pretty cool, actually, I think. Worlds of Making is another great hashtag. So if I click on Worlds of Making, um, and I go through it here, Laura Fleming is the kind of mastermind behind the Worlds of Making hashtag. All right. Actually, her book is being translated into Chinese. Good for you, Laura. Um, but scroll down here, and you see all kinds of things. Kids making art bots, which is pretty cool. Click on this, and you got some yogurt containers and things. Kids just building, having a good time. Scrolling down here, here's a maker model. Okay, it takes you through the different phases of making. This is actually a pretty good visual that I might have to save. The great thing about Makerspaces is that you can do these sorts of things. Okay, so I'm going to actually retweet this. And save it, because I think that's a great thing that I'll share with my school librarian. So hashtags are really useful to find ideas and resources, particularly for your makerspace or STEM classes. So really check that out. It's all about your learning network. I've talked about this before, right? So I just showed you Twitter, okay? But there are Voxer groups that are out there talking about science and STEM and makerspaces, Edmodo groups, Facebook pages, Facebook groups, Pinterest pages, Instagram feeds, YouTube videos, LinkedIn. I mean, you name it, they're out there. So, if Twitter's not for you, definitely one of these resources to find information. But also remember, and I spoke about this a couple of weeks ago with your personal learning network and sharing, you're doing great things as well. Even if you think it's just something simple, there's somebody else out there in the world that doesn't know about it, and when you push it out there in the social media world, it can benefit another educator and then ultimately impact the success of students. So please share all your great ideas and resources related to the next generation science standards, related to STEM, related to maker spaces and those sorts of 3D printing. Cybrary Man, my friend Jerry Blumengarten, he's got a page for it, ladies and gentlemen. Cybraryman.com has pages on everything related to STEM, STEAM, STREAM, STEMX, 3D printing. So he has a web page here on STEM, and all these things are hyperlinked. There's blogs and ideas and lesson plans and units of study. Check out cybraryman.com for more information. I found this as I was researching. I found this blog from Edutopia from a couple years ago, starting a school makerspace. Actually, it was from last year, and this takes you through the step-by-step process of starting your own makerspace. So this is in the presentation that you can have access to at the end here. I wrote a ebook last year, okay, titled 14 Leadership Qualities That Contributes to a Successful STEM Program, and here it is. So you can go through this, and from a school leader perspective, right? What does it take to make this experience happen? Not only how to have a STEM program, but a makerspace and those sorts of things. To take you through that, and there's a bunch of resources in here. So please download that and read it at your earliest convenience. So as we wind down here, I want to share with you some professional growth opportunities that are coming up. On May 21st at Rider University, the Tomorrow's Classrooms Today conference. The registration, there's still 2 weeks left open. Registration will be open for 2 more weeks. It's the best $49 you'll ever spend. In fact, we will have an on-site makerspace that will give you an opportunity to experience what we talked about today, hands-on. You'll get to see what it looks like to have a makerspace, to be a part of a makerspace. For $49, you'll have access to everything. Tomorrow's Classrooms Today conference. There will be over 40 presentations related to educational technology, a keynote address by the great Will Richardson, forward-thinking thought leader. An on-site makerspace, includes breakfast and lunch and Wi-Fi access. Visit evolvingeducators.com to register. Please check out my new book, 140 Twitter Tips for Educators. Please know that we offer EdTech training and NGSS training, Next Generation Science Standards. This summer we have a lot of events. I'm going to just quickly go to this here for a moment because it is related to science. All right. You can see at the website evolvingeducators.com. We have we're working with the Maker Depot Academy, and we have 3D printing workshops, maker workshops, coding in the classroom workshops, and all kinds of things. We also have Google trainings, and here's a link to our book and to the Tomorrow's Classrooms Today. And actually, I'm going to, this is not next week because this is it. All right, so I'm going to delete that. I apologize. All right, and what I want to say is that you can email me at brad.curry@gmail.com to receive a digital handout for this presentation. I have no problem sending it to you. The great people at Rider University will also push out a archive of this webinar. And I just want to thank Rider University. I want to thank all of you for participating today and over the last month. I hope you can take one or two things away from this particular webinar and make your classroom and make your school great, even greater. And I really thank you again for joining me here today and over the last month. And I hope you found it useful. And if you ever have any questions, please reach out to me via email, and I will respond promptly. So I thank you. Have a great day, and take care.